In a well-appointed kitchen, the chef carefully monitors the cooking process. He seems to run an entire factory, moving among numerous workers who diligently prepare the most exquisite dishes from the finest ingredients. A man named Goreng wakes up in a strange concrete room. His neighbor, an elderly stranger, explains that they are on level 48 and will spend the next month there. "What will we eat?" Goreng asks. "Obviously, the leftovers from those above," the stranger responds. This place is called the Pit, a unique structure where people on the lower levels have to eat the food left by those above. Each day, a platform travels down through a rectangular vertical shaft, stopping briefly on each level so the residents can eat. The man behaves unfriendly, but introduces himself as Trimagasi. He is glad to be on this level because they will get enough food. The shaft goes far down, and people there face starvation. Trimagasi has been here many months and knows what he is talking about. Goreng tries to negotiate with the residents of other floors, but it is clear that addressing those below is inappropriate, and those above will not respond. Tired of talking, he takes a position to start eating as the platform approaches. The old man pounces on the food like an animal. "These are leftovers," Goreng thinks, with obvious disdain, not even touching the table, piled with scraps and overturned dishes. He sees the arrogant look of the neighbor above. Trimagasi is surprised that not all the alcohol has been drunk. Apparently, teetotalers live above. He invites Goreng to eat something, and Goreng takes an apple from the table for later. Trimagasi finishes the wine from a bottle, throws it after the departing platform, and spits downwards. "Why did you do that?" Goreng asks. "To show those below their place, and if the ones above did the same, it's only fair," Trimagasi replies confidently. Suddenly, the temperature in the room rises sharply and will continue to rise until Goreng throws the apple away, as eating is only allowed while the platform remains on their level. He throws the fruit down and is left without food. Goreng sits in a skyscraper at a business meeting. He signs a contract to enter the pit voluntarily. Goreng can bring one item and chooses the book Don Quixote. Cigarettes are prohibited, so he uses this opportunity to quit smoking. Moreover, after 6 months in the pit, he will receive some certificate. Trimagasi is astonished. He will be here for a whole year and get nothing for it. Late at night, Goreng hears a strange sound and looks into the shaft, just missing the rapidly ascending platform. It takes many hours to reach the lower floors. The next day, Goreng still does not eat, and Trimagasi, following tradition, spits on those below. Goreng wants to know how the old man ended up in the pit. Trimagasi recounts how he once watched TV and saw an ad for the Samurai Plus knife, claimed to be the sharpest in the world, solving all problems, not only in the kitchen, but in life. After buying it, he saw another ad where the same knife was marketed as never dulling. Realizing he was fooled, he threw his TV out the window in a rage, hitting an illegal immigrant on a bicycle. He was given a choice of punishment, a psychiatric hospital or the pit. The old man chose the latter and took the knife with him. Last month he was on level 132, where the platform arrives empty, and there are levels even lower. Learning this, Goreng tries again to negotiate with neighbors to ration food more carefully, but receives only curses. Trimagasi unzips his pants and urinates down to show them their place. The starving Goreng cautiously begins to eat the leftovers under the old man's loud chewing, who always tries to stuff himself as much as possible. As the platform departs, a human body falls through the shaft, splattering Goreng with blood. Trimagasi explains to the shocked Goreng how he spent a month on the 8th level. Up there, you're always full, and the platform's arrival brings no joy. This leads some to lose their will, to live from boredom and futility. Goreng, who still believes in justice and thinks too much about life, is at risk. Each month, he will move randomly with his cellmate to a different level. The newcomer, who has long suspected Trimagasi, rightly questions the fate of his predecessor. It doesn't matter, but it's clear. You have a sharp knife, and your cellmate disappeared after being on a floor without food. The old man tries to evade accusations when suddenly a platform arrives with a girl, Miharu, whom Trimagasi knows as she descends monthly to find her son. Goreng is shocked that children are placed in the pit and tries to help the wounded girl. She remains silent and continues downwards. Trimagasi adds that Miharu kills her cellmates to increase her chances of finding her son next month. She likely caused the fall of people from above. He insists he didn't kill his cellmate. They survived on the remains of someone who fell from above, and after that month, his cellmate simply left. The platform and neighbors below grab Miharu and drag her to their floor, but she quickly leaves 2 corpses behind and climbs back onto the platform. Trimagasi asks Goreng to read Don Quixote to him. Goreng agrees to distract himself from the horrors he's witnessed. The next days and weeks, the cellmates spend eating together and talking. One night, Trimagasi asks if Goreng believes in God and asks him to pray for them, feeling that they are being gassed to sleep. The next morning, they wake up on a different level. "You probably won't survive long, but I like you," Trimagasi says. Goreng wakes up to find himself tightly bound to the bed. The old man reports they are on level 171, where there's no hope of leftovers, so immobilizing the younger, stronger neighbor was necessary. They will starve for a week. Then Trimagasi will start cutting pieces from Goreng, generously promising to share them with his captive. The atmosphere is filled with cries of despair from those who see how low they've fallen. To ease his conscience, Trimagasi begins referring to Goreng not as a person but as a snail, being purified and marinated before ending up as a gourmet dish. A week later, it's time for the first meal. Goreng tries to appeal to Trimagasi's humanity, saying he will hold only Trimagasi responsible for his death, not those who created the pit. This does not move the old man. At that moment, the platform descends to them, with Miharu sitting on it. Remembering that Goreng tried to protect her, she attacks the old man. Goreng frees himself, grabs the knife, and kills Trimagasi. Miharu eats the fresh raw meat and tries to feed Goreng, telling him that he either eats or says goodbye to life. Seeing Goreng eat, Miharu leaves on the platform. Time passes. On the 0 level, the head chef scolds his staff over a hair found in one of the dishes. On the 171st floor, Goreng finishes eating his cellmate. Trimagasi appears to him as a hallucination. The month ends and the tower is filled with gas again. Goreng wakes up this time on the 33rd floor. His new cellmate is a woman named Imogiri. Instead of an item, she brought her beloved dog. A foolish idea to bring a sausage on legs, Goreng thinks. He recalls that he and Imogiri have met before. She worked for the administration and conducted his interview. Imogiri calls this place a vertical self-management center, a social experiment. There are 200 levels in the tower. There is enough food on the platform to feed 400 people if it were distributed correctly, but human nature is such that some overeat while others starve. For this to change, people must learn to be kinder and share food, which will end the experiment. The platform descends, and Imogiri forms portions for the people below, pleading with them not to overeat. They laugh at her, but she doesn't lose hope. Every day, she asks people to think not only of themselves, but of others. At some point, Goreng loses patience and declares that if the neighbors below don't start rationing food, he will defecate on the platform continuously. The threat works, but only for a short while. One day, Miharu descends on the platform, in very poor condition. Goreng decides to keep her in their cell. At night, Goreng wakes up to a woman's scream. Miharu has woken up and decided to have a meal, leaving only the remains of Imogiri's dog on the floor. Miharu departs downward on the platform, and Imogiri mourns her pet. Goreng tells her that Miharu has gone mad after losing her child, but Imogiri, who personally interviewed Miharu, reveals she has no children, and that minors are not part of the experiment. Miharu is just an actress. Imogiri came here to help people, but they don't want it. The poor woman speaks the truth. The best chefs in the country prepare real masterpieces for them, but people behave like savages. One day, Goreng notices snails on the platform, his favorite dish. However, Imogiri refuses to eat, still mourning the loss of her beloved dog. The month ends, and Goreng wakes up in a new place, seeing that he is on the 202nd floor. It is so bad that Imogiri decides to end her life. This means there are more than 200 floors, so there's not enough food for everyone after all. Goreng is in shock. His former cellmates visit him in hallucinations. To quell his hunger, Goreng chews the pages of his book. Eventually, he can't take it anymore, and does to Imogiri's body what he did to Trimagasi. The month ends, and Goreng wakes up on the 6th level. His new cellmate is an optimistic man named Baharat. This guy has a rope and plans to escape the tower. They just need to convince the neighbors above to help them. The neighbors agree, but as Baharat starts climbing, a woman on the 5th level defecates on him. Baharat barely avoids falling into the shaft, but his rope falls. He is devastated. This was his only chance at salvation. The platform descends into their cell, laden with a huge variety of dishes. However, Baharat is not happy. He knows that in a month, everything will change. Days go by, and Goreng continues to be plagued by hallucinations. With 1 month left in his sentence, he no longer wants to leave. This man intends to break the system. Goreng proposes to Bharat that they arm themselves and sit on the platform to distribute food so that everyone gets enough. Goreng had timed the platform's movement and discovered there are 250 levels in the tower. The food is enough for 200 levels. The residents of the first 50 floors eat regularly, so this time they can skip eating. They break the beds, arm themselves with metal rods, and begin descending. On the first 50 floors, they threaten people with weapons, not allowing them to eat a single bite. On one of the floors, Bharat meets an elderly sage he knows. The sage listens to their plan and points out a problem. How will the administration know that the food reached the last level? The sage suggests choosing the most exquisite dish and leaving it on the platform as a message to the administration that the tower's residents have prevailed. The friends select a panna cotta as their symbol. As they descend, the inhabitants become increasingly hostile, and they must use their metal rods to protect the food. Starting from the 51st floor, Goreng and Bharat distribute small portions of food, ensuring it will last and that the panna cotta remains untouched. Around the 100th floor, Goreng sees Miharu. She is fighting with the inhabitants of that level, who are armed. Miharu stands no chance. Goreng and Bharat rush to her aid. They win the fight, but sustain many injuries. Their journey continues. On many floors, there are no people left, only their bodies. On such levels, the platform doesn't stop. Goreng realizes he miscalculated the time, considering the uninhabited floors. There are definitely more than 250 levels. The platform keeps descending, and the friends encounter insane, naked, starving, and wounded people. Finally, they reach the last level, the 333rd floor, meaning there were 666 prisoners in the tower. Suddenly, Goreng notices a child under the bed. Could this be Miharu's son? But no, it's a girl, and she doesn't look starved. How did she get here? The friends give the panna cotta to the child. They decide to send her up as the symbol instead of the food, believing she, a child who survived in this hell, will be a stronger message. Due to his wounds, Bharat doesn't survive until morning. As the platform arrives, Goreng gets on it with the girl and descends. The platform floats in the air, seemingly another hallucination of Goreng's. They finally reach the bottom. The ghost of Trimagasi appears and leads Goreng off the platform. Our hero walks into the darkness as the platform ascends with the little girl. Do you think the message will be able to change the system of this prison? And what is the message of this film? Write in the comments.